Sea Signal is about technological infrastructure and the impact on our everyday. So from how we experience this infrastructure in our day-to-day lives and our bodies, to maybe the impact on the environment or the impact on the countryside or the rural countryside as well. So it's looking at the various different combinations of things and thinking about kind of like how technology in its infrastructure is not just something that we think, it shouldn't be just something that we just think of as signals or as internet, but is something that is material and man-made and allows us to do many things that communicate across the world with one another, but also has an impact on kind of how we communicate with one another and how it kind of configures our relationships to one another as well. So I was invited by the EUCIDA project to choose 2 different artists from each different country. So the EUCIDA project is a collaboration between Espace Multimédia Ganter in France, Real Red in Dublin, and Lausanne Manor in Latvia. I chose 2 different artists from France, 2 different artists from Ireland, and 1 artist from Latvia then as well. And I guess my selection process was to first of all look and think about kind of the types of things I was trying to talk about within the exhibition. So to talk about kind of, well, the anxieties that we experience from constant communication, or the impact in the environment, or how we might think of our environment through a technological lens, or to think about kind of how machines configure things for us as well. So I was interested in kind of bringing all these kind of diverse kind of ways of thinking and ways of making together. And so I ended up picking these artists based on maybe some of those kind of investigations and as well. But it is very much a consideration of kind of screen-based work and maybe more material and kind of sculptural-based work as well. So if we start in the exhibition, if we start maybe with the artist John Gerard, and his work is called Flag, and it's basically a simulation of a segment of the piece of the Danube, and there's an oil slick on the front of on the top of the river. It's a piece that's kind of keystoned to the geolocation of where the piece actually is. So it's currently in France. So it's a durational piece. So it unfolds over 24 hours of the day. So depending on what location the piece actually is, it responds to the time zone accordingly, and basically the piece is 24 hours in duration, and so you view it over a long piece of time. But the idea is to kind of connect both the internet infrastructure, the technological infrastructures, but also connect it to kind of the impact that it actually has on our environment. So to think about kind of like where does the minerals that we use to build like laptops or smartphones come from, and maybe it connects to kind of also the Danube well, Germany is a very a large place of finance, and so to connect maybe kind of both of those 2 things through these pieces is a very nice thing. And then if we move to the piece with Nicholas Sassoon, it's a different space, but it's a pixelated. He uses 3 different colors, red, green, and blue, to render this view from his window. So these are windmills. So he's currently based in Vancouver, and there are different windmills that are very close to where he lives. And basically over time they have like an impact on the storm. But again, he's thinking about kind of about how a lot of what we experience of other places and other spaces in the world are actually mediated through screens and through our smartphones and our devices. So it takes the pixel, which is a very niche 90s every screen is made up of pixels, but he makes them larger, and he makes them very kind of apparent in the rendering of the actual space as well. So it's a combination of kind of reflecting on kind of the devices that bring these images to us, and then also reflection on how maybe we see these spaces through these interfaces that we continuously have in our day-to-day lives and as well. So for Santa's piece, her work is 3 different animations or 3 different videos which are looped, and they are looped in a way that they're meant to be about like meditating and taking breaths. So her piece is very much about anxieties and the types of anxieties that maybe that we experience on a day-to-day basis is related as a consequence of being bombarded with a lot of information. And if you read many studies at the moment, there's a lot of studies about kind of like amount of stress that people experience on a day-to-day life, and more so maybe than in previous decades. So anxiety is quite a big issue, depression is quite a big issue as well, especially in this line of work. So it's basically looking at a depiction of many different types of objects that will help kind of maybe help you through the day-to-day existence of like living with technology. And so all of the animations are also they are designed in a way to take a breath, so you can breathe with these animations and as well. And then if we move over to Alan Butler's piece, so this piece has been taken over the past year, and it's an exploration in the game Grand Theft Auto 5. And in this game, Alan has taken out the video camera and in the smartphone in the game to take pictures of the homeless people in Grand Theft Auto. So he was previously just exploring the game, playing the game as a recreational, so it was just for fun. And then he began to notice these different characters and these different bots within the game, which are depicting homeless people. And so he began to kind of explore this. It drew his attention, and he began to work with the smartphone in the game to take pictures of people. And so this piece that you see in the gallery is a culmination of that work, but also it moves a little bit as well. So it basically uses a machine as a piece of software to identify each image. So the image on the TV is basically images that he has taken, and then the machine identifies what is actually happening in the image, and that's the projection. So you see what the machine is identifying through these things as well. For me, this piece is quite interesting because it builds or it connects to the other works in a way that it begins to show the cracks of the kind of living through capitalism and living through technology. This entire city was simulated, or was re-rendered from real life. For me, it's quite interesting because it almost shows kind of the imaginations that we have, and kind of building these types of spaces is quite dystopian, that we need also dystopian and utopian places. So if anybody's played this game, it's it's a game that allows you to do anything, but then also it has these homeless people and people who are like living in all sorts of kind of like terrible conditions. So it's, for me, it kind of points at kind of maybe some of the cracks of these systems, and kind of the things that happen in these kind of like bad places, or in these kind of like non-places and as well. And then for Gregory's piece, then we have 3 different pieces by him, and there is, I'll speak maybe just about one of them, but the work in this room looks at kind of using a machine to imagine possibilities. So one of the sculptures that he has on display, they are made by a machine. So they're made by a piece of software, machine learning software, TensorFlow as well, actually. And the database that the software learned from was actually uploads to by users. So they would upload different 3D models, and then the machine would maybe like imagine new possibilities of what these objects could potentially look like in them as well. So it speculates then towards kind of like the future of like, or possible potentials of things that may happen or may arise through living and co-living with machines and as well. And so it's, for me, that piece is the future, Alan's is our current, and Santa's is also our current, and then John Gerard's and Nicholas Sassoon's pieces are almost like the past. It's almost like that this is what we're leaving behind as a consequence of these technologies and as well. It's sad.